Okay, it's 4:30. We'll start the meeting. This is an extraordinary council meeting, Monday the 12th of May, and it's 4:30. In accordance with the Local Government Act, Cowra Council is recording this meeting and will upload the recording to Council's website. By speaking at this meeting, you agree to being recorded and having that recording published in the public domain. Please ensure that when you speak at Council's meetings, you are respectful to others and use appropriate language at all times. Council accepts no liability for any defamatory or offensive remarks or gestures made during the course of this meeting. And I would note that we've had a couple of complaints that people can't hear. So, and they said particularly when councillors turn away from the mic. So if you could all just try and speak clearly into the microphone, thank you. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wiradjuri people, and pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. Attendance, apologies and applications for leave of absence. Councillor Speechley is an apology. And so Councillor Fagan may turn up as yet. You need a motion, someone accept those apologies. Councillor Watt and Horton, thank you very much. Councillor Watt, rate of reply. Well done. All those in favour? Thank you. 1.4, disclosure of interest. Councillors and staff, please indicate in relation to any interest you need to declare. A, what report or item you are declaring an interest in. B, whether the interest is pecuniary or non-pecuniary. And C, what is the nature of that interest? No declarations, thank you very much. We have no presentations and no public forum. Item 2.1, the General Manager, Draft Community Strategic Plan, the Draft Delivery Program 2025-2026 to 2028 and 2029, and the Operational Plan 2025 to 2026, the Draft Long-Term Financial Plan 2025 to 2026 to 2034 and to 2035. The Draft Revenue Policy of 2025 to 2026, the Draft Workforce Management Strategy 2025 to 2029. Can I have a mover to accept those reports? Councillor Cave. Seconder. Councillor Watt. Councillor Cave. No, nothing. Councillor Watt.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For a little bit of history or background, at the beginning of each council term, we know that council reviews its long-term strategic plan and sets out a 4-year delivery plan, 4-year workforce management strategy, 10-year long-term financial plan, and 1-year operational plan. We've made some significant changes to our long-term strategic plan in the version we are putting on draft today, and look forward to the community's feedback from them. Most significantly, we are amending one of our key strategic themes to now be termed livability and housing, previously known just as livability, and we've revamped this strategic theme to outline goals around promoting Cowra as a family-friendly shire and engaging directly with families to try and grow the proportion of our population who are of working age and encouraging young families to come and stay in Cowra. This objective also covers the implementation of the recently adopted Cowra housing strategy, and a significant part for us planning for the future involves developing and implementing a play strategy to renew our play areas and ensure consideration of shade, safety and accessibility. We've heard from our community, and I've experienced many times the need to really engage back again in our play facilities in the community, and we know this is a really big piece of work for us, and over time our areas have degraded, and we are very lucky in Cowra that we have so many playgrounds. We have 17 playgrounds, I'll double check that with Dirk, in the Shire, but it is quite an expensive thing to maintain. And so it's really important that we take the time to assess the situation of where they're at and make a real plan going forward, as well as a plan to make them fit for the future and fit for today. Importantly, aiming for making all of our playgrounds accessible, and first of all, making sure we've at least got one that's accessible. This strategy also outlines an increased focus on the gaps in healthcare availability in our Shire, with a commitment to advocate for Cowra to be a home to a Medicare urgent care clinic, which is a federal government funded clinic that sits in between the kind of fast lane and emergency to provide people care in that middle ground, and I believe would be a really good stopgap for the challenges that we are facing every day in Cowra and reduce the pressure on our hospital and our doctors. We also have in here a commitment to investigate options to either subsidise or incentivise medical professionals relocating to Cowra. As everyone acutely knows, with the loss of some medical professionals over the last few years, there is huge pressure on our medical system, and also a reduction in our community's ability to get preventative care in that way, with many people putting it off because it's simply too hard and ending up in emergency or in fast lane with more significant issues. This strategy has a commitment towards encouraging smoke-free public areas in areas such as sporting grounds, as well as additions to business and industry, including a commitment to develop local business capacity and increase local procurement by working with local businesses to build their understanding of our procurement processes and work with them to identify and tackle barriers they face in this space. It includes the beginning of implementing the CBD action plan that was developed in the last term in consultation with our community, and we really thank the over 100 people who took part in that workshop to put forward their views, and I hope that they can see in this report that we are starting to implement some of those ideas. Most significantly, the 1-year operational plan outlines the Macquarie Street redevelopment master plan beginning, which will set the path for us going forward to making that a more vibrant area for our community. The plan includes a renewal of the Lachlan River Master Plan and Peace Precinct Master Plan, which are both now around 20 years old, and we've seen over that 20 years substantial work in those spaces to make them somewhere our community goes for recreation, but also a place where we commemorate our history and share that with the community. And I think this is a really important step in ensuring they are maintained and make sure that they keep building on that really great base for the community going forward. And another important part of the strategic plan is also a commitment, and you'll see in here quite an enhanced element of the assessment methods that we take to analyse whether we are succeeding in a long-term strategic plan. The plan also sees an articulation of a number of things we've been committed to for quite a long time. This 4-year plan will see the implementation of significant asset renewal of the Cowra Aquatic Centre, with the splash pad, renewed toddler pool, accessibility improvements with a ramp into the 50-metre pool and much more. Advancing West Cowra Sewer, rolling out FOGO bins and continuing to improve our MRF. Continued work to reduce council emissions through implementation of solar energy on a number of council buildings and EV charging facilities that are available to the community, and continued advocacy for the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. In terms of the finances, we put forward here our 10-year long-term financial plan, as well as a revenue policy for the next year. This year, we're looking to trial a change in the pricing for the Civic Centre. For local businesses, owners and community groups, there will not be a significant change to what was changed in the last year outside of a minor CPI increase. With the significant improvements across the Civic Centre we've seen in the last year, we're now able to attract much bigger acts to the centre, and this revenue policy puts forward a pricing schedule much more reflective of the market and is hoped to help us sustain a program of supporting local businesses and community groups in utilising the facility. As I said, local community groups and businesses will be provided a discount on full hire fees, and those will be roughly in line with the current pricing. As now marked in our long-term financial plan, we've forward planned for the Eisteddfod donation, as well as concessions for those local operators and volunteer organisations for around $89,000 for the next financial year. This is often something that would come to us as the decision each year as council, and we've taken the decision to put that in our long-term financial plan to show our commitment here. We've also started a sculpture park reserve to enable us to react if the opportunity comes forth for a new sculpture, rather than budgeting in the anticipation each year, which wasn't a very clear reflection of where we were. I'd like to thank the Director of Corporate Services for the memo regarding the financial position of council. We continue to be financially sound, and the forward plan shows anticipated grants for capital works on our water treatment plan, which the community might see we're not just expecting a random influx between 2030 and 2032. We're anticipating more stability in the user charges around water as we start the transition in water charges to even out income for our council, and also not make a situation where we essentially make more money in a drought and we encourage water use, which is not reflective of our other commitments around minimising the use of water and sound environmental policies. And finally, this document has our workforce management strategy, and I'd like to particularly pass on my thanks through the General Manager to the Human Resources team for the positive changes we've seen since the workforce strategy and reflection we had in 2022 at the beginning of the last term. We identified 3 years ago some really significant and expected challenges with a large proportion of our staff at retirement age, and we benefited from a long time of a number of employees serving in council for a very long time and having strong knowledge. And we identified in 2022 that that would be a challenge for us, and we can see here that it has been managed quite well, and we've brought on a number of new young people and also had that time to transition to them and really focused on that succession planning and passing on of knowledge. We've been on a council tour of a number of facilities today and met with a number of those younger people who are being mentored into those roles, and it's really great to see that on the ground working really well and a reflection really strongly of the team. Council employs around 200 full-time equivalent employees, and I'd encourage anyone who is considering a change in their employment to look at working for council. You can see from this workforce plan that we really invest in our employees, and it's somewhere you can work for a lifetime but experience so many different places. And our General Manager, of course, is the strongest example of that, working here through his whole career in a number of different jobs. We've really got a commitment here to build up the capacity of our community through trades, through apprenticeships, through all of the different roles here. And I would like to encourage all my councillors to adopt this plan tonight. I think there's always more we can do, and I really open our arms to our community to put forward those suggestions, particularly in the areas where we've added things around family focused and family engaged, around procurement. We want to hear from our community when we put forward these things. Through our conversations, we've identified what we believe our community is saying, but we want to make sure that sticks true. So again, congratulations to the staff and all my colleagues on working really hard to put together this document. It's something I'm really proud of, and I hope you all are as well.
Thank you, Councillor Horton.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to start by echoing those final comments from Councillor Watt. I want to commend staff in particular, but also fellow councillors for the discussion and the effort that's gone into getting these documents where they are today. I'm excited, hopefully, to get some feedback from the community. I think it's also fair to say, and this is what I've been grappling with, particularly in the last week, I'm fairly anxious about expectations management, I suppose, with the community. I guess what I'm really struggling with and have been struggling with is the difference between being aspirational and managing expectations. We can include another 10 items, 20 items, 30 items, but it feels slightly disingenuous or misleading if there's no greater resource coming, there's no finance coming to actually achieve those things. I understand the argument about trying to reflect back to the community, these are the things on our radar, but I'm struggling to reconcile how we manage expectations, because we commit to something in a plan. If we're not convinced that we have the wherewithal to deliver it. So I think that's a challenge for me for the next few weeks while we get this feedback. But I think that's a conversation I'll probably have in one shape or form or another with staff and with fellow councillors over the next few weeks too, is how do we balance that understandable desire to be aspirational with these are the things we can actually do. And today I think was a really good, I was already looking forward to today, but it really helped cement for me a few things, and they may be the less, maybe they're not the things that get the headlines. Well, frankly, until something goes wrong. So the water treatment plant may not get front page of the paper until it doesn't operate properly, or the sewer treatment plant, or the holes in the roads. So these are the things that maybe, it's almost like administrators or a good sports referee. If they're a really good sports referee, you don't even know they're there, right? And there's a lot of stuff that council does that's expensive, that is day to day, that I'd argue ratepayers don't want to see, don't want to know about. They just want it to work. They just want the water to come through when they turn the tap on. And I just want to make sure, and again, this is where I'm wrestling with the aspirational versus what we can actually achieve. Want to make sure we cover off those things and we leave ourselves time and space for those things that we are on the hook for, and then have time and space and resource to extend and to aspire to something more. I also, the conversation we had last week with respect to fees and charges for the Civic Centre, I think was a good kind of example of the dangers of trying to run a commercial business via committee. So I want to be very cautious that as a council we don't start straying into areas that there might be organisations in the community that are actually already funded to deliver on some of those things. So I want to be very careful of that. And that we also don't stray into commercial areas where we don't need to. There's an argument to stick to your knitting and do that really well. And then if you then have, as I said, time and space and resource over and above that, then you can look to what else you can add, how you can value add. And finally, the financial accountability. And I feel like we're hearing fairly regularly. I heard it again on the news this week. Was it this week? There was a council that was struggling to finish renovations to a pool, and there's $1 million still needs to be spent, and they're nowhere near having that money and what have you. So that financial restraint, again, not very attractive. No one wants to hear about it. No one really wants to talk about it. But we need to make sure that we can deliver on those pieces of infrastructure that we're already on the hook for, as well as those things that we have grants for and what have you. So very grateful for all the work that's gone into this document so far. I think the challenge for me over the next month in having conversations with the community is going to be trying to get a sense of, well, what would I remove from this document? Because I'm really concerned that we are committing to things that we're not necessarily going to be able to deliver on, and I think that's a problem. It's a problem. It's an issue for me to reconcile. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Kiss.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Look, I would like to echo Councillor Watts and Councillor Horton's statements. I mean, they're very, very well spoken. Thank you to the staff who have put this item together. It's an incredibly exciting strategic plan. And look, there are only a couple of other things that I would like to add or perhaps echo. It is an exciting plan, but I think it's by virtue of that we've also got to be mindful of the customer expectations. If we're saying we're going to do something, then we really need to be able to be seen to be doing it, and we need the funding to do it. And I know one thing that I've actually considered a lot more as a councillor, didn't perhaps so much before, is the operational ongoing costs. And that can be quite extraordinary. We think of putting in a footpath, or we think of putting in a new whatever it is. But then, generally you think, oh, well, that's it, it's paid for. But it's not. It actually increases into our assets. So then we end up with ongoing operational expenses because we then need to consider repairs and replacement. So yes, we have the aspirations, we can have things developed, we can create more things, but ultimately it's then going to be increasing our long-term expenses. And I think that's where, I think we need to keep balancing. I mean, at the moment we're very sound financially. We look at our long-term financial plan for the next 10 years and it does look sound. I think that we should all feel really reassured that we've got that. But as Councillor Horton said, we obviously can't then be jumping into doing additional things and not taking into consideration their effect on our long-term finances. And I've just lost my train of thought there. Train of thought. All right. Yeah, look, I mean, in all honesty, as I said, if we can get through 2/3 of what's in this report or in our strategic plan, I mean, it will be so exciting. Our community will see some real differences. We're maintaining what we've found to be working, things like our Access Incentive Fund. It's working. The council shire is becoming more accessible as a result, and it's gaining new things as well within this plan. So, yeah, look, a lot to be thinking about in this. I would welcome any input from our community as they get the chance to have a look at it. It will go on public display not until after our next meeting, which is in a fortnight's time. A fortnight? Week? Oh, this is only the recommendation of the general meeting. Extraordinary council. Well, there you go. All right. I had that mixed up. Okay. So, look, 28 days. There you go. We agree on this tonight. Goes out for 28 days. And I would invite everybody to have a really good look at it, see what we're saying we would like to do, and hopefully it's aligning what our community expects as well. Thank you.
Would anybody else like to comment? Councillor Downing.
Just quickly, I'd just like to say that when I was elected in the first time we ran for council, I had a really clear idea of the people that we spoke to. We went to an election and we knew what the community wanted, or the people that spoke to us wanted. We didn't have that this time, barring Councillor Cave, and it's been a struggle to figure out what the community actually wants, the direction they need us to go in. So here is your opportunity as the community to look at these plans. I think there's something in here for everyone. I think it's progressive along with being financially safe. I think there's something in there for sporting, there's community groups, there's all of the infrastructure that we have to replace as well. I just think that this is the community's time. They didn't get a say. They didn't have an election for like the 8 of us. Now's their time to have a say. Have a look at this, have a look at what we do and make a comment and let us know.
Thank you. Anybody else like to comment? Councillor Wright.
I appreciate and congratulate the people that have spoken so far about this plan. We need to maintain what we have and improve where we can what we have in the recurrent expenses of these various facilities. As far as being too aspirational, I think Councillor Horton might have answered his own question. Yes, we've got to be careful about what we aspire to, but after going through a federal government election the last 5 weeks, there's government plans floated for development in our local government industry, and we have to have some sort of planning in our way forward that might be open to any of these things that do come up. It's very difficult to explain to the community that we've applied for a grant under this funding position if we haven't had something in our plan to be able to do so. They think that we're not operating by what we are, and it is difficult to be aspirational and realistic, but I think most people live their life that way, that yes, if things do improve, we might have this, and if they don't, we'll just keep what we got. And And I just hope that our staff can operate under our plans that we are putting out on public exhibition, because they're the people that have to deliver it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay. I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to this. I think this is a good plan. There's a lot in it, and I'll be very interested to see what sort of response we get from the community when it comes back. Councillor Cave, write a reply.
No, thank you.
I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. There are no late reports. Are there any urgent matters for motions without notice? There are not. In that case, I declare the meeting closed at 4:55. Thank you.